the faces of all the movements. What was the role of women?
Well, in SNCC, the role of women was the same as the role of men. I mean, what was amazing is that these were young people. So, and they were young people who had been activists when they came out of their own sites. So Diane Nash is not going to take low to no man. You know what I mean? It's like she has just continued the freedom rides. She was the head of the national student movement at that point. Ruby Doris Smith Robinson, nobody bucked Ruby Doris Smith. I was afraid of Ruby Doris Smith. You know, I mean, 30 days jail, no bail in Rock Hill, South Carolina, you know, they had her busting rocks out on the highway. You know, I mean, it's like, these were strong, amazing women. And then, of course, in the local communities, you had Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer. You had Mrs. Palmer. You had Mrs., you know, all of the Unita Blackwell. You had all of these amazing local women who, of course, some of the SCLC people would have known as well, but as deaconesses on the deaconess board, or as they knew them as strong women within their churches, but it's not like they were on the front lines of the marches and of the leadership and stuff. In SNCC, the women were as much in the leadership and in the decision-making as any of the guys. And any of the guys will tell you that. You know, I mean, it's like, and then of course we had Miss Ella Baker, whom everybody respected for what she brought. I mean, it wasn't just that her philosophy and her grassroots organizing became, you know, part of the foundation of the way we operated all those years. It was also, we knew her history. You know, she had just been amazing. And her thing was never to impose her will on us. She would let us talk. And then if she saw something going wrong, she would insert herself. Like when there was a struggle between, do we do voter registration? Do we take the voter education project money and do voter registration? Or do we continue doing sit-ins? And so there was the public accommodations faction, and then there was the voting rights faction. And then it was Ms. Baker who said, look, you can do both. You know, why don't you all, it stopped the split. She was there, but, I've forgotten the question. Tell me.
The role of women.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So the role of women through all of this is that, you know, you never felt that you were not respected. People let me do things as a woman that I would not have let me do if I knew how little I knew. You know, I mean, I was just allowed to do a residential freedom school. I'd never done that before. To take on responsibilities, because what folks wanted to see is, okay, if we give her this, can she also do this? So I remember Dottie Zellner coming in, and when she comes into the office and initially is coming off from Southern Regional Council, she's doing whatever. Foreman says, can you type? Now, she says yes, and is very happy as a white woman coming from New York to be able to do anything for this wonderful organization, right? But then he says, wait a minute, you can write too? So now she's writing pamphlets, and now she's the assistant director under Julian. You know, you were being pushed to be more than you thought you could be. And so sometimes people talk about this joke that Stokely did, which was, you know, they're sitting on the dock of the bay at Waveland. Now, first of all, do you need this? Why? I'm not sure whether you need the story about how Stokely comes into the best position for a woman is prone or not. Don't know if you even need this.
I don't, you can tell, yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's okay? Because I don't want to waste, oh, okay,
There's
okay.
like a few more questions I have, but just
Okay.
as long as it ties into everything.
Okay, well, it's part of the women thing. Okay. I don't know how many times I have gone on a campus, and not just the students, but also once a professor said, so what about sexism in SNCC? Because of that, and they say, quote, by Stokely Carmichael. Now, you know, later Kwame Ture. And what it was it's based on a story of during the Waveland meeting, which was a very difficult meeting. It was right after the summer of '64. Lots of, I mean, those three particular workers had been killed, Cheney, Goodman, and Schwerner. There had been a lot of shootings, a lot of beatings. There were killings that we only found out about later, others than those three. and it was just, it was a lot of violence. And then we're trying to figure out where we go as an organization. So we're now at Waveland in Mississippi, which is a retreat center. And it was wonderful. It was balmy. It was gorgeous. And so Mary King, who was the assistant director of communications under Julian, has written a book called Freedom Song. And in this, she has this wonderful description of what happened during that time. And she said, you know, we're all sitting there, we're drinking wine, and this was a time that I remember, the only time I remember anybody asking for position papers. Foreman wanted, he was always very big into staff education, and both around organizing, but also around everything, education, internal staff education. So he had asked for position papers on what people thought should be the direction of SNCC moving forward. And so people submitted them. So, position papers. Now they're at the dock of the bay. It's Stokely, it's Mary King. I think Casey was there. There are other folks who were there, and drinking wine, you know. And so somebody asked, talked about these position papers. What do you think about these position papers? And at some point, Stokely starts waxing poetic because he could preach. And so he starts preaching and talking about position papers. And then he says, and somebody in the group says, what do you think about the position of women? Because there was a women's position paper. And he laughs and says, I think the best position for a woman is prone. Now, it was a joke. It really was a joke. And even in Mary King's description of it in Freedom Song, she says, everybody laughed. Because for Stokely to say that, who had, Muriel Tillinghast, she'd become the project director in Greenville, which was part of the 2nd Congressional District where Stokely was the project director. You had Cynthia Washington, who was another project director. Stokely respected women and respected their leadership. He had come out of NAG, on Howard's campus. There were lots of strong women coming out of NAG. So there was no way in the world, and I knew Stokely. I mean, Stokely also was another that was a funny man. But Stokely was somebody who could relate to anybody at any level. He could quote Kant and Hegel in a staff meeting. And then you could see him when he was canvassing in Itabena, Mississippi. And it was like, these were his people. And the people knew he's one of us. You know, he understood folks. He liked people. And yeah, he could play the intellectual. And he was when I was filmmaking there's amazing footage of Stokely when he's talking about Black Power, and he's on Face the Nation. And it's like for an hour he is interviewed and he's running it. He's just running it. But again, he's also funny as hell. And so it's amazing to see. The reason people laughed at that joke, men and women, was because they knew that it was a joke for Stokely. You know, he didn't think about it that way. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Then, speak briefly on the Heart of Atlanta Motel.
Yes, it was.
Restaurant?
It was. Oh, gosh. That was the one with, that idiot who became the Georgia governor. Lester Maddox, yes. I remember that less than I remember the Grady Memorial. If we can, I'm going to say this. Can we do Grady too? Okay, yeah. Heart of Atlanta, the Heart of Atlanta Motel. Oh, that's right. No, that wasn't the Pickwick. What did we do with the Heart of Atlanta Motel? Now I'm trying to remember. They all start mushing together for me. Golly.
You could do the Grady Memorial.
Let me do Grady Memorial because I can't remember that one specifically. Yeah, okay. With Grady Memorial, it was a municipal hospital. And, you know, they had segregated Black and white patients. And our thing was, it's municipal. You know, you can't do this. So there were a number of demonstrations there, but the one I most remember is one where we were protesting, and then we were getting arrested. And two cops had me. I mean, one had my feet and one had my hands. But in front of me was John Lewis. And I thought they were manhandling him. So I'm trying to get out of the grasp of these police officers. And in the process, I inadvertently, kicked the cop in a very sensitive area because that's where my feet landed. He shouldn't have been holding my feet. But anyway, so that's where they landed. And I try and get out, but don't manage to. They get me, they put me in jail. I remember also being behind this steel, iron, whatever it was, metal door, and being so mad, because you really did, when you got arrested, you were almost in another zone. You'd be singing, you're always singing while this is happening, and you really are another zone. So I get behind this door with other demonstrators. We're in jail now, and I start pounding on this door, but then my hands get tired, so I put my back to the wall and I start saying, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. And I keep doing this, okay. And then I stopped, and within about 5 minutes, I'm talking incredible pain. I mean, pain all up and down the leg, and it's just, you really don't realize that, there is a place for righteous anger in these things, but sometimes you move beyond that, and, you need to realize you should not be doing this, because you're gonna hurt yourself, okay. Now, postscript, I come out of jail, and again, I was Jim Foreman's secretary. And we had a lot of Northern support through our Friends of SNCC organizations all over the country. But part of it was, so I get called into Jim Foreman's office, and he shows me this New York Times article about the demonstration. Now, he had been on the demonstration, and you see quotes from him, and you see him that he has said, the great Atlanta, the city too busy to hate, and see what's happening here, and he's doing this thing. And then we laid down, that's right. And at some point, I think I get taken into an ambulance too, but I can't remember how any of that happens, and I may be conflating another Grady Memorial demonstration. In any event, he's preaching. I get arrested. I'm coming out. He shows me this New York Times article. And he says in this, it says here that you